Now, eNCA reporter Erin Bates is tracking the inquiry for us, as she has been doing over the past week. She joins us now live from Parktown. Erin, it's a big day for South Africans. We'll be closely watching the budget speech from Cape Town. And, of course, very closely connected is the evidence that will be led at the state capture inquiry today. And I understand it includes a trove of documents that Eskom admitted to the inquiry itself.
Yes, and Aldrin Sampier has so beautifully set the scene for us there in his report. The Public Protector's State of Capture report, of course, forms the foundation for much of the inquiry's work, although the scope of the Zondo Commission does extend somewhat beyond it. And in the Public Protector's State of Capture report, she made findings on that optimum to get a deal with Eskom over its Mpumalanga coal mines, and also some findings on Brian Molefe and phone calls that he had with the Gupta brother between August of 2015 and March of 2016. So that may well be one of the documents in the trove that will be tabled by members of the legal team.
And Erin, of course, who can forget that bombshell report released by Treasury in November, implicating a whole range of Eskom executives, including the likes of Anoj Singh, Matsela Koko, among many other people?
Certainly, definitely a likely candidate for another report to be tabled by the legal team. That, along with the report that the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises admitted in November of last year. That report didn't have any sort of substantive findings in terms of liability. It wasn't a quasi-judicial inquiry, as is this one here at the Zondo Commission. And so it's likely that that too will be among the documents that are going to be tabled and perhaps ventilated to some degree ahead of the first Eskom witness on Friday.
We've heard so much about the extent of the corruption at Eskom through Parliament's own inquiry. Do you reckon we're going to sort of hear a repeat of much of what we heard during that inquiry?
It's quite possible that what we hear at the Zondo Commission will traverse some of the same themes and go into the same detail. But what's critical here is that the findings that Zondo makes at the end of the day can lead to criminal prosecution. And as we've seen with the whole African global operations matter, people in the Hawks and in the National Prosecuting Authority haven't waited for Zondo's final report in order to begin the process of charging suspects in relation to allegations of corruption and fraud. And so we're going to have to see really what comes out and who the people are who are going to appear before the Commission and deal with what went so terribly wrong at the National Power Utility. And of course, Brian Molefe on eNCA on Sunday saying that the current, present, contemporary problems at Eskom are so puzzling to him, and he can't really give us details on what's going on in Eskom since he's not in it anymore. But interestingly, Michelle Nurser in January saying that they perceive the crisis in Eskom to be the consequence of historical corruption and even state capture. So it really is a balancing act of determining what happened historically to get us to where we are today and how liable the current leadership of the National Power Utility is for the ensuing problems with the national power grid.
Yeah, the current leadership as well as, I would imagine, the former leadership as well, Erin. So the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we'll be hearing sort of this trove of evidence that's been admitted to the state capture inquiry. Then on Friday, that's when we're expecting that first Eskom witness to take the stand. Do we know who that is?
No indication at this point who the first witness will be, and it may not be someone directly from Eskom, but someone Eskom linked. We've had no hint on who that person may be, and it's likely that with the national budget today, that will eclipse the technical details that the legal team at the Zondo Commission are going to table. But I hasten to add, Michelle, that what we've heard at the Zondo Commission in the early part of this week has been quite illuminating in terms of the concerns of National Treasury and the Fiscus. The interview you've just done ahead of the budget speech, speaking about our ability to service our debt. That's a theme that came up so strongly yesterday when we heard from Catherine McLeod of National Treasury talking about how much debt South Africa had and actually calculating the extent of the increase in that debt stock based on Nenegate. And according to Treasury modelling, that increase going up from about 26 billion to 33 billion, depending on how many percentage points the bond yields increased by. And that means that government's ability to service debt or the cost of servicing debt increased by billions too, between 3 and 5 billion rand lumped on to how much government had to spend on servicing national debt. And of course, it's not untoward, or as Lungisa Fuzile said, it's not a crime for countries to have debt, but our ability to service those debts and the sustainability and viability of South Africa as an investment has a serious bearing on how much confidence investors have in us and how stable we are in terms of looking after the debts that we need to pay.
Yeah, and as a consequence, it has a serious bearing on ordinary South Africans as well. Thanks very much for that. Our reporter Erin Bates is live to us there from Parktown as the Zondo Commission of Inquiry begins the Eskom part of its inquiry. Today and tomorrow set out for some evidence leaders to bring forth this trove of documents that have been admitted by Eskom, and then on Friday we'll get a sense of who that first Eskom witness is, who